Hey, good afternoon, fishermen and fisherwomen. This is meteorologist Mark Torregrossa with the Saginaw Bay weather forecast specifically for the Bay. Remember, 36 years trying to outguess Mother Nature. This brought to you by Frank's Great Outdoors in Linwood. Yesterday, we had some folks that had to be rescued because of the shifting wind breaking off the ice. Be very careful. I'm going to try to start to fine-tune the wind periods for you. And tomorrow morning could be a time where you'd feel a little bit safer on the wind. You choose if you think if the ice is thick enough where you're going to go. But what I'm going to say is tomorrow morning we're looking at about a 5 to 7 mile an hour wind, maybe 10 to 12 miles an hour, but a lot lighter certainly than it has been. And tomorrow also, check me out, we may get a good satellite image of the ice on Saginaw Bay. We don't today. This is current because we've had the clouds and the light snow, the lake effect clouds coming down. You can just barely see there the ice underneath being revealed. But I think tomorrow with some sunshine, we may actually be able to see what's going on. All right, now remember my rule of thumb for you. With every isobar in lower Michigan, we get about a 5 mile an hour wind. So this is going to help you pick out some days just generally that have lighter winds than other days. So here we go. And we're in a northwest wind today. And why am I targeting Friday morning? Look at the number of isobars in lower Michigan. 2. So that would say, on my rule of thumb, a 10 mile an hour wind. Looks like it'll be out of the west. We'll look a little closer at that. And through the day, the pressure gradient, as we call it, tightens up. And look at Saturday morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 isobars, 25 mile an hour gusts back out of the southwest. Dangerous wind flow. That ice can be pulled out into the open water of Lake Huron. Now we go to Saturday afternoon. The wind's back to the west, and we go to Sunday morning, and it is windy again. Hey, this leads to a discussion. I was having this discussion with my son last night. He fishes a lot on Saginaw Bay. Why so windy? I said, Saginaw Bay is a windy spot. Why right now? Body of Lake Huron is 35 to 40 degree water. That's warm air. It rises off of the surface. Warm air is buoyant, rises off, kind of leaves a void. What fills that in? Cold air coming off of the land right now, and it's a straight southwest wind right down the mouth of Saginaw River, out into the mouth of the Saginaw Bay, and you just don't often see the wind die down in Saginaw Bay. It doesn't die down until Lake Huron is frozen over, and that doesn't happen every year. And this year it may not happen until maybe mid-February, and we might then start to see somewhat of a breakdown in the winds. But right now you're just going to get a 6-hour window here and there. In fact, as we take this out, the other story is that there are no major storm systems. Look at Monday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 isobars. That pressure gradient would support a 40 mile an hour gust. And what I'm seeing next week is that maybe one day late in the week, by Thursday, we might see that pressure gradient and wind lighten up. So here's your details, high resolution, rapid refresh wind forecast. And again, let's go through the day today. We're northwest wind. Overnight, it dies down, and I know a lot of guys are starting to do the nighttime fish. That's a pretty good idea. Let's look at 7 in the morning. West wind, 5, 10, 12 miles an hour. Pretty good time period. And as we go to the afternoon tomorrow, the wind starts to pick up. We're at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Southwest winds, 15 miles an hour, not too terrible. And then, of course, as we go through the night, Friday night, and we head towards Saturday morning, 7 a.m., we're back to a southwest wind, 20 miles an hour to 30 miles an hour. There you see the process of how Lake Huron sucks the air out of Saginaw Bay and creates a wind. Look at out over Lake Huron. The wind's steady at 30 to 40 miles an hour. Longer term for wind, to try and pick out some days, here's your Friday morning. A lighter wind. We go to Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon, southwest winds 20 to 30 miles an hour. We go around to Sunday morning, they back to the northwest to west. And then, like I showed you, Monday, another rip-roaring wind. This model doesn't show anything dying down until about Tuesday. So is Mother Nature going to do a flip-flop on us? Old Man Winter pack his bags and head out and we turn back to open water? No. You will see some modification in temperatures, but we still have a couple of, let's call it pseudo-Arctic outbreaks on the way in early February. So these are the temperature anomalies. We go toward early next week, you get a little couple of day cold blast. We go toward the end of January. I've been showing you this, kind of a glancing blow at the polar vortex, January 28th, 29th. We go into early February, and I've been talking about some warmer temperatures, and it's fairly short-lived. This is February 1st and 2nd, and that means we could have some days 35 to 40 degrees in the afternoon, still dropping into the 20s for most of the day, probably still building ice. And let's go to February 5th and out into the 6th and 7th. And these models now are starting to show the next batch of colder than normal air hanging to the west but oozing into our region. February 7th, that is a great ice fishing pattern for you there, slightly colder than normal. So some specifics. Tomorrow we have highs in the teens. Saturday maybe back to near 30. Sunday back down to 20. It's an up and down type thing as you have the southwest wind switching to the northwest. Southwest wind we can warm up as this Arctic air retreats. Northwest wind we cool back down. So Monday, although crazy wind in the mid 30s. Tuesday back to the upper 20s. But what you'll basically see is the Arctic, true deep Arctic air has let up. January 29th, January 30th. Next Friday, and as we go into the following weekend, we could be in the 30s as well. So starting to change this, we've just started doing this, and specific for Saginaw Bay. Now I think we focus more on day-to-day wind. We focus on the ice building. Maybe we'll get some days where we get some sunshine. We get a little more sunshine in early February due to the cold air killing the lake effect most years. But remember, the lakes started off going into winter 5 degrees warmer than they've ever been in modern, let's call it in the last couple of decades at this time. So it's going to take some time. But we'll get some better looks at the ice shield, and the momentum is still building ice. But be careful and catch a lot of fish. If you do, invite me over to a fish fry. I like walleye. Take care. This is meteorologist Mark Torregrossa, your Saginaw Bay weather forecast, brought to you by Frank's Great Outdoors in Linwood. Take care.